Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Oh, I was right. I was going to let you do the intro. I just totally
Okay,
took
it's
it
too
out.
late.
Yeah, too late. Too late now. Anywho, welcome to the
Fuck it
Column
up.
Shifters podcast. I'm one of your main hosts, Juan Johnson, or Afro, as other people call me. An amateur race car drivery person. I break cars and I look at cars, and I'm just, all that other stuff. And then we got my friend Hunter, Hunter, why don't you tell people about yourself?
I'm gonna tell myself that I'm a pretty cool dude,
Yep.
and
It's on his business card.
it's on my business card. Raised bone. If you don't get that reference, you need to watch. I'm not even gonna tell you to watch the movie. You should know this reference, but yeah, that's all you need to know. I like the references and cars.
Yeah. So, anywho, as you can probably guess, this podcast is about cars, and we're talking about car news, and on occasion we just go off on total random tangents that have nothing to do with cars. Because that's fun, and that's what people do, and that's what we do, because we're cool like that.
Indeed.
So, that being said, we're going to go ahead and start up with our first article, slash snippy bit. God, I cannot think straight today. With our first little snippy bit of news, we're going to go with snippy bit. So the FCA plus PSA merger, for those of you guys who haven't been in the loop, is officially all officialized, and their new name is like a cheap medication. So if you have if you do not take Stellantis, if you have can't did you not know that was the name of it?
No, I did. I
Yeah.
I thought they had the same thought of like, well, this is terrible.
Yeah, it's just, like literally Stellantis. It's so apparently the name actually comes from hold on. I've looked this up like 5 times and every time I forget because it's such pointless nonsense. It is rooted in the Latin verb stello, meaning to brighten with stars. It draws inspiration from this new and ambitious alignment of storied automotive brands and strong company cultures that in coming together are creating one of the new leaders in the next era of mobility, while the blah blah blah. It's like a straight up full paragraph like that just goes on and on and on, and it means nothing. Like I don't get it at all. Do you get it? Like to brighten with stars and how that somehow applies to the 2 garbage piles that are now a big garbage pile?
I think what needs to happen is people need to give less power to the marketing department. I think that's it. I think somebody that's actually in charge is like, I don't know, just give it to marketing. They'll come up with something, and then they made this monstrosity. It sounds like, at the end of the commercial, it'll tell you that side effects include instant death and painful diarrhea.
Again, it's a weird name, but anywho, they've come together and they have that new name now. So it'll be really interesting to see what this next era of whatever we want in Chrysler.
F me in the A. Thanks U.S. taxpayer.
I just love how like
Chrysler
continually is merged with other people. Like it's like you've got Ford, always Ford. You've got Chevy / GM, which is pretty much like, I know that they have investments from various different places, but for the most part, their identity has never been wrapped around somebody else. Like they've always been centrally GM, so Chevy, GMC, blah 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 blah. But then over this past it's 2 decades now, Chrysler has really failed to have an identity of its own because it turned into Fiat Chrysler Automotive, and now butt suppository number 5.
Yep.
AKA Stellantis. Exactly. But yeah. So anyway, they got that new name. And it will be interesting to see what actually comes of this partnership. But in the meantime, we're going to get on to stuff that's more interesting, which is that since we have last spoken to all of you guys, the Bronco has officially been announced, released, shown off, whatever. You can go into the builder, you can look at all the packages and all of that other fun stuff. So that being said, today we're going to talk about just kind of what all you could actually get. So obviously from the get-go, one of the big questions one of our authors, Cody, even wrote an article about it, was one of the biggest questions we were all really waiting to have answered is how much was it going to cost? Was it going to undercut the Jeep? Was it going to ritz it up and be a upmarket Jeep? Or was it going to be right there in the middle? Which we lucked out, and it is right there in the middle. It's about the same price. Which is honestly not too bad. And God, I wish my camera, just defocused for no reason. So I guess this is going to be unfocused now. Thanks, camera. But yeah, so anywho, but it ended up being, I think the starting price is $28,000, if I remember right.
That's great.
Yeah. So it is genuinely a direct competitor, which, I will take, because again, Jeep needed a competitor so that they wouldn't be friggin' stale. Not that Jeep has really been stale, because, Jeep has made a bunch of, steady improvements over time, but now they have that real incentive to, step up their game. Although I will say, it's I've always been kind of torn. A lot of it is because I'm not a big off-roady guy. I do rally stuff, but that's not the same as crawling and trail stuff. But I do wonder, what is the next real step for off-roader? Because, that's the biggest thing is, obviously, now we have competition, so they have incentive, but it's you don't really need more horsepower. The horsepower is kind of moot when you have a transfer case and a crawler gear. It's it's all about the torque you can put down. So it's I really do wonder what improvements we're going to see as the result of all this competition.
A trophy truck? I don't know.
Well, okay, so there is actually there are some rumors that we are gonna get a Raptor Bronco of some sort. None of it's confirmed yet, but it would, because people have been complaining about ever since we saw that Bronco mule.
Raptor?
Yeah, the little Well, that'd be a fantastic name. But ever since we saw that test mule Bronco that was literally a Raptor on a shortened frame, we all said it. That looked amazing. We need a shorty, almost not car-like, but kind of car-like Raptor. So honestly, you might be kind of on the money in that. But again, it what makes you better at high speed ruins you for low speed. So we very well may get a Raptor Bronco, which will be really freaking cool, especially if you can get it in the 2-door, because then you have this little tiny guy that goes fast. It might roll over, who knows? But it would be cool. But yeah, so
I'm sold. I want one. I don't care. I don't have to read anything about it. It looks great. Yeah. The new. I don't really care for the Bronco Sport. I just don't really care for it. But a 2-door Bronco, rad. I want it. I would drive it every day.
Yeah, as somebody who is not a loyalist, if I was boom, I want to get me a dedicated off-roader, I would get the Bronco without question, because I just think it looks better. A Jeep does have its own really cool, unique look, but the Bronco has just it's so much more modern looking. Which that might actually be the change that we see in the Jeep in the future, is maybe they'll actually try and modernize some things. But it's at the same time, it's a give or take there, because it's the more you modernize it, the less you can hose it down with a literal hose, which then means you can't go as hard in the mud and in the dirt and all the other stuff, because half the fun of these cars is you take the doors off and you can just hose everything down and let it dry off in the sun. So as you start making them nicer, it gets a little bit harder to do that. But even then, the Bronco, I think that they took a really good stance on how to handle, it's a really plain interior. It's a lot of flat surfaces, not a lot of weird crevices and curves and shapes, but it still looks modern and advanced, which is really freaking cool. But yeah, so let's see. So one of the things I was going to talk about is just the trim, so we can go over what I'll use. So that base, and I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's $29,000. It's $29.99. $29,995. God, I'm butchering that. $29,000. $29,995,000. It just sounds stupid when I say it like that. Anywho, it's $5 short.
Even the base is like, it's got
chops base. Like, it's insane.
I mean, I know it's a 2.3 EcoBoost, but that's 270 horsepower, 300 foot-pounds of torque, 7-speed manual, over the doors. It has the GOAT system. It's on Steelies. It's got 30s. It has Sync 4 already. So
does the base really come with Sync 4? Holy crap!
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Like that being said, it's on the smaller 8-inch screen, not the big 12-inch.
That's
screen.
so stupid. I hate this. Like, oh, we got to put a T in the car.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's big and cool. You can now. You know what's really funny is I love how screens have gotten bigger, we've gotten like because do you remember how like in the 90s and 2000s it was a thing for head units to play DVDs, but now that screens are actually big, we don't have like DVD functionality in cars whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Like
I remember like seeing. Just seeing like flip out T head unit. Like what's the point?
Well, dude, even my neighbor, I love him to death, and he's not a terrible person, but he is like the trashiest, riciest. Like he has a late 2000s Toyota Yaris that
Wonderful.
He's doing all sorts of shit to. Like he plasti dipped the hood in the trunk.
Awesome.
Fun enough because he was inspired by me because of my plasti dip project, which, you know, arguably, you know, some people are gonna hate, other people so far I've only gotten positive feedback on it because I actually, you know, put in the $500 and the multiple days of work that goes into doing it the right way, but he rattle canned it, so you know he got the result that a rattle can gets you. He's like put in his so you know like it's a Yaris sedan too, like it's not the hatchback, but you know like the Yaris sedan, it has a pretty functional trunk for how small of a car it is. He has no trunk anymore. It's a sub. Like there's like this much space between the sub and the outside of everything, like in all dimensions.
Perfect.
And anywho, he just put in a head unit that can play DVDs, and me being the person, like, again, no hate to anybody's project, as long as they're digging it, it's whatever. But I also helped him wire up his head unit in a way that allows him to watch DVDs without the handbrake being pulled. So he can play DVDs on his head unit, and he can do it while mobile, because you're supposed to wire it in to the handbrake so that, like, if the handbrake isn't engaged, then it says, please park and engage the handbrake to watch DVDs. And he was like, hey, do you know how to wire this up? And I'm like, sure, whatever. Just wire it into that and it'll bypass it.
Splice it together, right? Like,
yeah, you literally splice it into any ground wire other than the handbrake wire, and you're good to go. But yeah, so anywho, long story, that's a fun little tangent there, but I do love that we have these massive screens in cars that you can't watch anything on. Although a lot of them have browsers now. No, actually, not even a lot. I don't know if any of them have browsers, come to think of it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, like, I'm trying to think of, like, obviously, I know that Teslas do, but I don't believe anybody else does. Yeah, it's like Tesla has a browser and everybody else doesn't. But yeah, so anyway, back to the actual trims though, like we were talking about, like the base one, you still get, like, the base one is DTF. Like, the only thing it doesn't really get is the tires aren't massively knobby, like they're a more road-based tire. But much like the regular Jeep, like, you know, it can be, if you want to start this on a budget, it is, you put some good tires on it and you'll be DTF. Especially if you get an automatic one, then you're already getting the same thing. Like, basically all you need to do is put in some big tires. And also, I guess I don't think you get the lockers. Yeah, you don't get the lockers with the base trim, do you?
I'm trying to see. I thought that came standard in everything.
It might. Like, that's the other crazy thing, is just, Bronco did take a gut punch to Jeep in that, like, the base Bronco comes with way more capability than, well, not way, it depends, pick and choose there, but you get more on the base trim compared to the highest trim with the Bronco than you do with the Jeep, which was just kind of really, really good on them. But yeah, so then you've got, I forget, altogether it's like you get the Steelies, you get the more streety tires. But yeah, so then you've got Big Bend, which is the next trim, which then you get an additional GOAT driving mode. You get 17-inch gray. Then you get your alloy wheels that are on a wider tire, I believe. No, it's actually the same width tire, but a slightly taller sidewall by 5 millimeters. But it's an all-terrain tire then. You get a slightly different grille that's a little bit fancier, and and you go straight to the LED headlamps with that upgrade. Oh no, LED fog lamps. I'm sorry. Then you get leather stuff and a bunch of other things. Then you get Black Diamond, which is kind of like some of these lower ones are just like a bunch of weird, random stuff.
Just keep going. I gotta plug in my laptop. I totally forgot to. Hold on.
Yeah, no worries. So then you got the Black Diamond, which then gets wider tires. It gets the bash plates and a powder coated steel rear bumper. And a stronger front bumper, so it's a little more off-roady. Then let's see, what else has it got? Then you've got then you get the auxiliary switches like what the Raptor had, which is kind of neat. So then you can wire in all of your extra fog lights and stuff. And then it gets vinyl seats, so then you get all the washable material. So this is kind of your intro foray to like, I really want to off-road, but I don't want to spend maximum money. Then you get onto the Outer Banks, which is your $40,000 option, which it has LED lighting, heated front. So it looks like this one gets more of your comforty features, like the things that you would want on the street, like Ford's Copilot 360 safety features. Then it's the first one that you get the bigger touchscreen. Then let's see, and then it also gets body color door handles instead of the blacked out handles, as well as let's see, what else does it get? Recognizable body color door mirrors. Yeah, so same thing too. You can get the body color fender flares, body color mirrors, and it's not quite as aggressive. So this is definitely more of your this is your streety Bronco, but at the same time, again, it still has a little bit more tire capability than some of the lower trims. And then you get to the Wild Track, which is a whopping $10,000 more than the last one. But the Wild Track is going to be the Desert Runner, where it only gets kind of like the mid-nice packages, but it has the off-road oriented Sasquatch package as standard, which gives you the 35-inch mud terrain tires, locking front and rear axles. It gives you taller suspension, so you get a light lift. You get the bigger fender flares. You get better dampers. Blah 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 blah. You get this is the first one where you get a lot of the off-road stuff, and then you also get a Baja mode for desert cruising. Let's see, any other interesting things about that? And then you get into the Badlands, which is the highest trim, short of the first edition, which the first edition gets you a special color and special other things like that. But the Badlands is the most capable one. But oddly enough, doesn't come standard with the Sasquatch package with the bigger tires. But it's facing off. This is the one that's supposed to be up against the Rubicon. It gets an exclusive suspension with a hydraulic front sway bar disconnect, and it sits on 17-inch wheels, blah blah blah, with 33-inch all-terrain tires, and then it adds the rock crawl to the existing GOAT modes, and it also gets all the switches and vinyl seats and all the other stuff. So it's kind of weird how mixed together all of these are. Like, I don't know, it'll be an interesting shopping experience in deciding what things you want to go with, because there are definitely some things that, it's like, it seems as if every package is missing a little bit of something somewhere, which just gives you tons of room to upsell yourself on tons of options and all the other stuff.
Anything, I would just take a base with heated seats. Fine. Perfect. Does it have an aux cord? Great. Perfect. That's all I care about.
I will say that, like, just, like, go to the picture of the Wild Track, and those tires are just so big. Like, that was one thing I was saying to the guys earlier, is that with the you know, the highest trimmed Broncos, it legitimately looks modified from the factory. Like, even the Rubicon, like, looks like, it still looks like a factory option. Like, it's badass looking, but that being said, it is, like, you know, it still looks like everything belongs, whereas this one, that tire profile is just so stupidly big. Like, they are fat wide, they are fat tall. It is just insane what it looks like. And I love it. I love it to death. It's amazing. It's still super weird, though, that that was right. That was the big yeah, so I'm still trying to figure out what the difference is between the Badlands and the Wild Track. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. We're getting an issue on Discord that says disconnected, but that makes no sense because
You're disconnected.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, but like I'm still trying to figure out really what the difference is with the Badlands versus the Wild Track, because the Wild Track gets bigger tires. Because it gets the Sasquatch package as standard. So it's like, what the heck is up with it? Oh, but then I guess that's right. So the Wild Track doesn't have the disconnectable sway bar stuff.
I think the Wild Track's designed to be like your desert runner, and then the Badlands is your.
But then again, it's so weird that it doesn't get the Sasquatch package standard. Like, you would almost think, but you know what? There we go. The pricing is different. It's a 43. I thought that all of these were organized in order, but then, like, Badlands is dropped at the bottom, so it's $7,000 cheaper than the Wild Track. To be honest, I'd be kind of torn. Like, the disconnectable sway bar thing is definitely, you know, one of the clutch features for an off-roader, but there is that part of me that would almost I'd probably just go Wild Track, and then hopefully, like, that's the thing, is that we won't, I guess we might not know more details until later, but I would like to hope that the Wild Track can option in the disconnectable sway bar from the Badlands. But if not, then you might end up having to get the Badlands, and then, because you can put the Sasquatch on anything, so you might have to do Badlands with Sasquatch, because I do know that the suspension is going to be different between the two. So one of them is designed for high speed, one of them is designed for low speed. So that might be just kind of the thing they force you into. And then there's always that part in my head that's always like, I do fast things, and all the stuff I do is fast. So by default, I always will, like, I want to buy the fast thing. But IRL, if I was buying this thing to wheel off-road, it'd probably be better to get the one with the wheel and deal off-road package versus the go fast one. Because you really can't have both, unfortunately. That's just sort of how it goes. But yeah, so, but either way, though, so far, flat out, the Bronco...
Give it to me right now.
Now. Yeah. Like, Ford knocked it out. The only way this could have been better is if it was cheaper, which I don't think was feasible. I really, like, I would be blown, like, honestly, I would assume they were doing it at a loss if they managed to make it cheaper than the Wrangler. But being right at that price point means it's the option to beat right now, in my opinion, because, like I said, it's got nicer features. It's just notoriously Ford Sync is better than the FCA U Connect or U something or whatever the hell it is. And then just, like, again, the other thing too is styling wise, if you like it to feel like a piece of military hardware, Jeep still has that down pat. Like, when you get into it, there's so many things in it that are so rubberized and ruggedized. Like, it is nice in that sense. But if you want something that seems like an actual nice place to be, because let's face it, very few people are buying a $30,000 to $60,000 thing just to use it as a toy. Like, you're not buying a Badlands to then, like, garage it and trailer it to the track, or trailer it to the trails and all the other
Badlands,
stuff.
bro.
But that being said, so most people are buying these to where it's a daily driver as well as a fun thing. And I'm a big fan of liking where you're at instead of compromising because it's good for other things. Like, it's the reason why my cars are still relatively streetable is because of the fact I like to like where I'm at. That being said, I will ruin them eventually, but I'll ruin them when I have something that's nice on the street.
Perfect.
Still why I definitely cannot wait I still really am aiming for next year to be the year of the tow rig, and then after I get a tow rig, I really want to get a daily driver sporty thing, and I would love for it to be like a V8 GT thing where it's just like, this is a nice place to be, I'm not gonna dick with it. Still thinking it's gonna be a Charger SRT or RT Scat Pack with options depending on which year and all the other stuff, but time will tell. So good job, Ford. You did a good job with the Bronco. We're very proud of you, and it looks awesome. Many
praise, applause, Ford.
So that being said, do you want to talk about we have I don't know if this is praiseworthy or not praiseworthy, but do you want to talk about this next thing? I know you're excited about it. I know that you were like after you read about after the Bronco, then you read this and you're like, man, I have 2 new cars I need to buy. I need to sell my house and buy these 2 cars because I need a Bronco and I need this new Nissan EV in my life.
I'll let you do that one, my friend.
So, that being said, America's favorite car company, Nissan, has created a new electric SUV. Blah, 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 packed with safety tech, blah, 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 don't care. But that being said, it is the Nissan Ariya, which is, it's a Nissan. It's a Nissan thing. So altogether, it's got
Nissan Ariya Stark.
Yeah, Nissan Ariya Stark. They need to start... God, I really hate that D&D ruined Game of Thrones, because if they hadn't have, it could still be a thing. Like, it could still be a popular thing. This would have been hilarious to have, like, a Stark edition of this. But nobody cares about Game of Thrones anymore because D&D ruined it. Anywho, on to actual car stuff. So, it's got 215 horsepower and 221 foot-pounds of torque if you get the single motor. But if you get the dual motor, aka the all-wheel drive one, it gets... and this is kind of an interesting bump, but I guess it makes sense since you're doubling everything. It goes up to 389 horsepower and 443 foot-pounds of torque, which is actually pretty close to like the original two-wheel drive Tesla Model S. So, that being said, this thing will have some get up and go, but knowing Nissan, they'll find a way to make it not fun. It'll be offered in a standard and long-range version. The standard is going to be a 65 kilowatt-hour battery, and the latter is going to be a 90 kilowatt-hour battery, so that's a pretty decent chunky bump there. And they estimate the range for the single-motor long-range, which is going to be your longest-range version, is about 300 miles. Which is, that's kind of that's the number to beat now. Or that's not the number to beat. That is the standard. If you can do 300 miles, then you're on par with the rest of the market. Although I'm still waiting for that. I'm still waiting for electric cars to finally hit like 500. Because at 500 is when you genuinely hit that point where the majority of people aren't going to go that far in a single day. Like... when you're traveling in a way that isn't punishing yourself, most people travel about 500 miles in a day. Like, you travel 500 miles, that's, it's 60 miles an hour. That's like, I forget, I used to know the math off the top of my head. If you have 60 miles in an hour, then calculator, where'd my calculator go? It didn't open anywhere. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so, 60 miles in an hour, 500 divided by 60. So... yeah, it's about 8 hours of driving. So if you left at 7, you'd drive into the early afternoon, then stop for if your lunch stop is fast, you only stop for 30 minutes. ideally, most people, their dinner stop is a decent amount of time, too. And at that point, you're pretty much ready for bed. So, I think that 500 is when range anxiety is finally not going to be a realistic issue for a lot of people. Now, a lot of you guys are probably going, oh, I drive 18 hours straight to get to where I'm going. And it's like, yeah, and that's because you're desperate to get there in a hurry. And so if that's the case, then go with gas. But most of us would prefer not to drive 18 hours straight because it sucks and your body hates you. Hunter, does your body hate you after 18 hours of driving?
Yes. Usually my back is screaming. I have a bad back.
I'm honestly just tired. Like after about like hour 12, I'm ready for a nap. I don't know. I guess it's because I'm old and crusty, but
well, even when I was younger, 12 hours, I was done.
Yeah, and I've done my longest one was 16 hours straight, and 16 hours straight is like you when you've got like 4 hours left, you are nodding off. Like, you legit... And I'm talking single driver, like, just me driving nonstop. So, anyway, long story short is this is no slouch. It's got tons of, basic safety features. I will say, I like the rear end. It's kind of weird, but the taillight is really cool. Okay, so correction. I like the taillight. The rear end's kind of ugly, but that taillight is kind of neat, because it's kind of got that blacked out look. And then they opted to go the Mercedes route, and they have the like 2 screens sticking out of the dash. It's got like a little bend in it, so that's kind of neat. I'm trying to see if I can find good pictures of the interior so I can actually really assess this. Obviously, the pictures are going to be of... Wow, look at that. Actually, Hunter skimmed through these photos. The floor space is really interesting because they did the like Tesla thing where they don't, since there's no transmission tunnel. So you have
absolutely
this like
refuse to look at this car.
There's legit. If I don't know if that middle thing folds up into a seat. I don't think it does not. But like you could legit have 3 people comfortably sitting up there if it was like a bench seat, like Fiat Multipla right there. But still, like, that's one of the nice things about some of these EVs is, like, you never realize how much real estate transmission tunnels and exhaust tunnels and drivetrain tunnels take up. Like, and when you have that space opened up, it makes it feel so open. Like, it's one of the reasons why I really can't wait to get, like, an EV thing. Because I really just want to get something that feels big, because... all of my cars are like tiny little coffins, like tiny little speed coffins, which is fun, but at the same time it's not cozy and you don't feel like you can stretch your legs out and let your balls cool off or anything. But overall, this thing actually really does, like, I don't hate it. I do not hate it, actually. I'd have to drive one because I'm sure if I drove one then that might change my mind, but that being said, at least at first glance, it's not crazy looking, it's fairly standard, and it seems to have a lot of really solid features. It's even got look at that. I like the little wireless charging pad that it has. That's kind of nice.
That is cool.
Like, straight up, it's not a bad car. I would consider test drive. Oh, look at that, it's got 2 satellite fins for some reason. Cute. But yeah, I would legitimately... I don't know. Actually, to be fair, that front end is a face only a mother could love.
Yeah. No, like, you're absolutely right. It's trouble.
It's like somebody it's like they hired the designer of the NSX and then told them to do everything that the guy who designed the Juke told him to do. But that being said, again, it's still fairly a fairly low-key design car. And, yeah, I would actually legitimately consider... I might actually test drive one just out of curiosity, because Nissan, they have I think this is only their second EV, if I recall right. Like, they obviously have hybrid vehicles, but they also, like, they've just had the Leaf up until this point, I believe. Did the Leaf Nismo ever actually successfully land here? Like, I think we were supposed to get it, but I don't know if it's still around.
I don't think that happened. Oh, did it?
They talked about it. Let's see, Sentra, Coupe, I if it did happen, it was only for like a year or two, but I could be wrong. Who knows? Let's see. Why can't I... Where is their electric... Did the Leaf die? Did they get rid of the Leaf? I don't think they did. Yeah, there it is. Oh, that's right. They made it into a hatchback now.
Yep.
Which makes a lot of sense. And it doesn't look as crazy now. It actually looks pretty reasonable now. Anywho, that's all that we have on that one. Let's talk about the next thing, which... This is actually a genuinely hotness car. It's genuinely hotness car. This car is genuinely hotness. Like, not gonna lie. And this is, I'm admittedly, I say this constantly, as soon as you do stupid race car stuff to any car, I instantly like it more. So it's like, I can hate a car, which is kind of funny. That's why, like, the Nissan Leaf Nismo, I loved it, because they did race car stuff to it. Not a lot, but they did some stuff. So, Hunter, I'll let you talk about this one so that you can talk about something that's actually kind of neat and not gross.
So, like, there's the brand new Mercedes AMG GT Black Series coming, and it'll be the most powerful AMG V8. I don't think so. Is it? Oh, it's not, because I'm thinking V12. It'd have to be. The V12s are horrendously, stupidly powerful. Yeah. So anyway, this is gonna have 750 horsepower.
Can I just say I both love and hate the fact that 700 horsepower is no longer a wow number. Like,
that's a wow to me.
I mean though, like, from a marketing standpoint, like, people casually mention it now. Like, when the Hellcat first came out, people were talking about how it would move like heaven and earth. But now you've got the Hellcat, and you've got the Demon, which is just, an even crazier Hellcat. The GT500 has 700 horsepower. The Porsche GT2 has over 700 horsepower. The ZR1 has over... Like, so many cars in the past 3 years have come out with that 700 plus number now, and it's just disgusting.
I really do think there needs to be a point where, like, if a car has a certain amount of horsepower, like, manufacturer has to include some kind of training on it. It's just too much power. Like, I can literally... I'm not saying anything about this MG GT. It's amazing. But...
yeah, this is
too much power.
Like, this is just so much that... Like, I was watching a video the other day of, there's a... I forget what his name. He's that one. What is his name? He's a famous YouTuber and he lives like in the same town as like the Nürburgring, and he owns like a shop there, and like a lot of his videos.
Oh, Misha.
Thank you.
Or it's either Misha or the guy that owns. I think his name's Robert, but he owns Apex Nürburgring.
I'm trying to remember which one he is. I think it's Misha though. I think it's Misha, and but he just got a ride along with a dude who had a Senna. And I was just watching that, because, like, the guy who owned the Senna actually knew how to frickin' drive it, and the speed that he carried in his lap was genuinely enough that, like, I was like, dude, if he crashes, he's dead. Like, you need safety equipment to go that fast. Like, to consistently go that fast and not have death be, like, a guarantee... You should have a cage, you should have a Hans, and it's a freaking road car. He's just got a helmet on. He didn't even have gloves. Like, well, not that gloves are a big difference, but he's just a dude in a helmet barreling down at speeds.
I really do think some people, like, one of the biggest, one of the funniest things I always see, and I've been guilty of it, but the more I think about it, I'm like, what's the point? Is, like, dudes at a track day, helmet, gloves, and I'm like, why do you have gloves? Like...
Well, I know for some people, like, because if you get, like, good gloves, there is the fatigue aspect, because, they have the padding in different spots, so you don't have to grip as hard. So if you yourself have taught yourself the right way to hold your steering wheel while wearing gloves, it significantly does reduce your hand fatigue from run to run. I will say that much.
True, it is true, but I don't know.
Like, because bare hands... My hands are like, I can keep going, but my hands are noticeably tired after about like 2 sessions with bare hands. versus with gloves, I can usually go the entire day, or, the entire session group without my hands feeling like I'm not going to be able to hold the steering wheel right anymore. And it gets even worse on some of these high downforce cars that, like...
Yeah, because it loads up.
Yeah, like, everything loads up so much more. Like, I mean, again, I always feel stupid using this as an example, but my hands literally hurt after doing about 30 laps in a go-kart. Like, with bare hands. Like, literally... I'm like, with bare hands on a go-kart. So, like, if next time I go karting, I'll look stupid, but I am going to actually wear gloves for that. Because you carry...
Karting's different. Like, karting, you're like, it's heavy.
Yeah. But even then, like, some of these cars, because a lot of these cars nowadays, like, especially if you have a hydraulically assisted steering rack, then that isn't, like, most of these cars only have, like, a few, the really fancy cars have tons, but a lot of cars only have, like, 2 or 3, like, weights to them, and so you are still really cranking on that wheel. So, long story short, back to your thing, but it does make sense to me, like, I do agree that there are tons of people out there who don't really need it, but if you do train yourself of the right way to do stuff, then it's one of the few things that you can really benefit from gear-wise on a track day. God, this thing is just so insane, though, looking at... So, alright, so to give you guys just a little more, like, flat out, you've got to look it up. We joked about this in the group, in, like, our group chat earlier, but the back end of this literally is, like, Mercedes stole Porsche's homework from the GT2. Like, everything down to the two-tone paint scheme in the back, to, like, just a bunch of other stuff. Like, genuinely, if you got blown by this car and you didn't know better, you could actually think you were blown by a GT2 RS, because it has all of the same stuff going on. It has the fender vents. It has, the big old multi-tiered wing. It's got, the two-tone rear end. A lot of stuff is really just like and that's basically what this car is supposed to kind of be, is it's like a, Mercedes answer to what, like, not that they are actually answering to anything. They did this of their own accord for the most part, but it is an answer to the GT2. And I just love
100%.
it.
100%.
Like, because again, like, it's got a slightly more, sucky mouth. It's got some tiny canards. It's got a adjustable, like, the front splitter, I believe, is slightly adjustable. It's got bigger side thingies side thingies, bigger front, like, intake things, which I assume is for brake duct cooling. It's got the vents that help evacuate air from under the hood that run along. They've got some picture, like, obviously this is, like, 3D rendered, but this car is designed to be really aerodynamic. Like, not that it wasn't aerodynamic before, but this one does a lot of things to help you take
more
advantage.
Downforce for sure.
Yeah. Like, especially, like I said, when you relieve pressure out of the top of your fenders, you're moving more air over the top of the car, but likewise you're also removing that pressure from the wheel well, so you have less drag. This thing is just sex. Like, this is the first version of the AMG GT. Like, even because there is even the AMG GT, not just the R. There was another special one too that was a little more insane than the R, and I can't remember what it was. But even then, I didn't totally like it. Versus this one is the one that I would actually buy if I, was actually a customer, which I'm not. I'm nowhere near the customer demographic for this car.
Can all hope, or only dream.
Yeah, but like you're saying though, it's 720 horsepower. It's a freaking monster. It's got Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2R MO tires, which it's a vehicle specific tire, and it's available in 2 compounds: a standard soft rubber and a harder compound for higher temperature track use. It's got the fancy stability control adjust. Like, you can actively tell it how much traction control you want, and it's a bit like literally where the volume knob should be on most cars is where this knob is. It's just this big old yellow knob that you can say, I want more slip, I want less slip, and it's just, God, such a cool car. If you haven't looked at it, go look at pictures of it. Oh my God, I didn't even read through all of these specs. It makes 24.6 pounds of boost.
That's stupid.
And that's up from the regular AMG GTR makes 19 pounds, but 24 pounds of boost out of this thing. It is just so freaking insane. Like, I can't say anything more. It's an amazing car, and I want one, but hopefully one of these days I will get enough. We'll get enough steam that I can at least have the honor of driving one, let alone owning one. And I think it's also a fantastic addition to the world of the Black Series, because that's the other big thing too, is a Black Series car is a big deal. That's like a generational thing. So last generation was the SLK Black Series, I believe, something like that.
Yeah.
Something
that I can't remember. It was like SL or SLK. ESL.
Yeah. So this is the next generation in that lineup of cars that are just properly bonkers for the track. And this one is the most bonkersy. Massive downforce. Alright, let's go on to the next thing. So, next thing, do you want to talk about this one?
Just more up your alley.
Alright then. Saying that right in mid-drink, making people wait. Want for me to... God, I can't talk straight. Anywho, so right before Ford announced their Bronco, Jeep went ahead and they released a concept of a V8 powered Wrangler. So that being said, when Jeep is actually notorious, honestly, FCA as a whole is notoriously really bad about not letting their concepts die. They very regularly release concepts that become production cars within the next 3 years after the concept was teased. So on paper, a lot of the theories and stuff point to this actually being a potential real thing, and it kind of goes with all of the rest of the FCA stupidity, where it's like we have the SRT Durango, we have the SRT. That's right. We're getting a Hellcat Durango now, which we'll get to that stuff. Actually,
that's something we're talking about later.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Might as well talk about it now.
We'll move it up. But anyway, we've got the SRT. So we're getting a Hellcat Durango. So it honestly is not crazy at all for them to go, hey, we already put the Hellcat in the Trailhawk, or not Trailhawk.
Let's go make
Trackhawk. Yeah. Might as well put it in the Wrangler so that people who have Wranglers can have stupid horsepower. So
I think they need to put in the Grand Caravan.
I'm still waiting. As soon as that dude, I cannot wait for them to announce even the SRT Grand Caravan. I will take. That's already more than stupid. So, and I mean, I don't know if it's got room, but it might fit. It might fit in there. It's a big engine bay. Just move some stuff around. And as soon as it gets announced, I'm figuring out how to trade in the Caravan. I'm figuring out how to trade in our Caravan so we can upgrade to, although there is that part of me that's a little worried because other people borrow our van a lot, and I don't trust any of the people who borrow our van. It's part of the reason why I don't touch anything on it is, technically there are supercharger kits you can get for the Pentastar V6. And, I would do it, but then they would probably just immediately kill themselves or roll it over because it has a higher roll center of gravity than the stock car did. Anywho, getting on side tangents, though. So, if you always thought, oh, Jeep is great, because the other thing, too, is if they figure out how to put it in the Wrangler, it means that afterward it'll fit inside the Gladiator, which is the big... Now, the downside is that you won't gate, they'll need to do some stuff to the frame, because it's all frame limited at this point, what the Gladiator can tow, because it's just a heavily modified Dodge Ram 1500 chassis.
But as far as I understand, like, back half of the chassis is pretty much a Ram.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. So you're not going to suddenly be able to tow 10,000 pounds, with the V8, but it will be less like, and it's not gutless towing as it sits either, but it'll give it a lot more towing oomph. So you got that going for you. Not that you really needed to go fast in your towing, like, high roll center off-road truck anyway, but hey.
Whatever.
But it does open up the door for Jeep to go full balls out and go, we just made our own Raptor. We don't know what we're going to call it, but, and that's the other thing too, is we have the TRX to look forward to, which is the proper Raptor fighter. Like, again, like, ever since Ford dropped cars as a thing, Dodge has pretty much managed to nail themselves down. Or FCA, or Stellantis, take 3 times daily, mind for diarrhea.
Diarrhea, heart attack, instant death.
They have actually managed to make themselves such a badass company. Like, it is... There's just so much, and like the whole thing we talked about, I think in the last podcast. Maybe you weren't here, but they're basically planning on like over an 8,000 horsepower lineup. Like, if you take all their models, line them up, 8,000 horsepower, which is just bonkers. It is so bonkers. I need to own a Dodge. I need to support these bad behaviors that they're doing. So that being said, talking about more of their bad behaviors. But we're also going to get the Dodge Challenger Super Stock, which is, again, it's like they keep releasing so many drag racing related-y things. Like, they did the Demon, then they did the Hellcat Red Eye, which is like, a less demon-y demon. Ooh, excuse me. But this little guy, I forget what the deal, but basically this is going to be your Dodge Demon successor, where it's like the Demon was a limited run car. There's only going to be so many of them, and then that was it. They're not making any more. Whereas this car is everything that the Demon was, for the most part, but missing a few little special tidbits, so that they're making full production. And so, basically, let me find out. So a little bit of details. Oh God, I'm just trying to find all stuff. Basically, it's got, read up on it on your own time, because it'll take forever to talk about all the different little things. But they give it all sorts of launch control benefits. They give it the more drag racing suspension stuff. They give it the really similar tires to what the Demon has. And it has 807 horsepower, or is that, let's see, yeah, it has 807 horsepower, so literally, I think the only thing it doesn't have is, like, the after chiller thing, and a few other little things that the Demon has, and this doesn't come with the Demon crate, which comes with the jack and all the other fancy stuff, but this is literally, if you missed out on a Demon, you can get the super stock, and you're not missing out on that much. You don't get the same hood, you don't get the special wheels and all in the box, and that's about it. Otherwise, this is another one. So, again, Dodge going full stupid. Like, it's like, originally it's like, oh, there's only going to be a few, Demons, and then everyone bought all the Demons, and they're like, well, we can't make more Demons, but we'll just take the badge off and give it to you as this instead.
All the super stock.
And I will say, I like the super stock wheels a lot better than the Demon wheels, personally. They look better. They just look meaty. Like, they honestly kind of remind me of, like, the 1552 tarmac, the Ken Block wheels. They're really kind of, like, if they didn't have that indent in them, they would basically be the tarmac wheels.
Yeah, I like them more than what's on the D. Sure.
Yep. So anywho, if you really had Demon money and you felt like you missed out because you're not stupid, so you didn't want to pay $200,000 for a Demon, then you'll be able to get a super stock easy peasy lemon squeezy. Yeah, it is literally just everything is so dead similar to it, other than the hood and the other things. So, keep on keeping on, Dodge. Keep on making stupid cars that are amazing. in every way and make me wish that I was upper class, because I would have gone through so many Dodge products at this point if I made six figures. It's like if you're smart with your money and you do all of your stuff, like, you could legitimately just keep rotating through these stupid high horsepower cars. Like, you know, I got a Trailhawk for a while, or not Trailhawk, a Trackhawk for a while, because, you know, I needed a bigger space, and then I realized I didn't need a bigger space, so I got a Hellcat. Then they announced the Demon, and, well, I had to have more. I wanted to go to the drag strip for a while, but then now I've got 3 kids, so I'm gonna get a Durango SRT. So yeah, it's just you can have horsepower in everything from Dodge. Although I will still say, and, you know, I bet Dodge didn't think I was going to bring this up again. Why did they have to do the Dart dirty? That could have been the SRT4. It could have been cool. And instead they didn't do anything with it. I'm still waiting, because especially ever since Dodge took away the Viper, I'm still waiting for them to release a proper sport thing.
Need to. I think that'd be perfect. I mean, they got the straight lines covered.
I know,
off-roady.
Like, dude, just like on paper, because especially like I think some of the Hemi blocks are all aluminum blocks now, aren't they? There are some iron ones, but aren't there aluminum block Hemis now?
I don't know.
I can't remember. I could be totally wrong. I might be thinking about something else. But even then, it's just like release a spiritual successor to the Viper, Dodge. Like, for real, just pop something out that makes people no longer have to complain about the fact that you don't make a car that weighs under 4,000 pounds. Like, I mean, legit. Actually, what all does Dodge even make now? Because their lineup is like diminished as hell. Like, they basically make like 7 cars.
You should look at Chrysler.
I know, they make 2 cars.
2 cars.
300 and the Pacifica. Do they still make the 300, or the 300 finally get axed?
No, they still make the 300. You know what? Chrysler. Remember the Chrysler SUV? I can't remember what it was called. The late 2000s. It was basically a Durango, but just Chrysler.
I thought that was the first gen Pacifica.
Oh, it was something else. Oh
my God! Look at that. Chrysler Pacifica, Chrysler 300, Chrysler Voyager. What the hell? It literally looks like a Pacifica. Is it not a Pacifica? Slightly different. I don't know what the Chrysler Voyager is.
Aspen.
Yeah, I don't know the Aspen. Like, legit, I'm trying to figure out what this Voyager is over the Pacifica, and I cannot. It's like a slightly different bumper. I don't know. But yeah, so literally 2 vehicles. But yeah,
I think it's the same car. They just remember.
Yeah. So literally, oh my God, Dodge's lineup is the Charger, the Challenger, the Durango, the Journey, and the Grand Caravan.
I hate the Journey.
Everybody hates the Journey. It's like literally the epitome of sadness in a car.
I will say this about FCA products. I always noticed that the biggest dickheads on the road are more or less FCA product drivers.
Yeah, for the most part.
You gotta get in the brotherhood of muscle.
I mean, I've joked about this before, but if I owned one of the Muscle Boys, I would probably, my number of burnouts per day would increase by like 100%. Minimum.
Yeah, but I wouldn't tailgate or cut people off in traffic or just being.
But still, the number
asshole.
of things that I would do that are genuinely considered to be asshole things to do would increase. Like, to normal people. Because normal people don't like it when you do anything other than drive in a straight line. But yeah, so that being said, though, anyway, that's the Dodge. The Dodge lineup is just silly. Like, everything, literally the Grand Caravan is the only thing worth putting something else in, and it's the only thing left that isn't going to get the Hellcat treatment or big V8 treatment. Because, with the Rams, we've already got the TRX on the way. It's really funny. On Dodge's website now, specifically, you have the 5 things that they make, and then there's a link that says Ram trucks that takes you to Ram. So even on Dodge's website, they're like, we make trucks, they're just under a different brand name. I thought that you guys wanted Ram to be separate from Dodge. Why did you change your mind?
What the fuck?
Yeah. Alright, so anywho, getting on to some other stuff. So, the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is officially getting the diesel engine from the Jeep Wrangler. And if at first that sounds so, we complained about this when the regular Jeep got it. But like at first thought, you hear, oh, a diesel engine in the truck? That's gonna be amazing. It's gonna haul ass. It's gonna do all sorts of stuff. No, it makes literally. So let's see. Hold on. What does it make? I forget what it makes figure wise. We'll compete with Dodge Colorado diesel. So basically, it doesn't make more than the V6, if I recall. The EcoDiesel, I'm trying to find...
It's really just for fuel efficiency. Really
yeah. Yeah, it's a 3-liter diesel V6, and it makes 260 horsepower and 442 foot-pounds of torque, but it doesn't affect the towing capacity of the truck at all. So, it's like, it doesn't make it faster, it makes it be able to haul more, but it can't haul more. So it's like literally, you get 268 horsepower out of the gas V6 and less torque. But again, it's like when your tow limit is when your tow rating is limited, it's just a weird choice. It really is, and it adds 300 pounds to the truck. So it's like, why? But okay. I mean, it's kind of a big old screw you to everybody who's been asking for a diesel for years, because they're like, here, we gave you a diesel, and they're like, no, not like that. So, on to other things, though. Hyundai is officially introducing a clutch pedal-less manual transmission. So, basically, on paper, it would just, it uses sensors in the gear stick to tell when it needs to actually put it into, the right gear. So, a lot of people have been kind of, well, they just think it's needlessly complicated and another thing to break, but on paper, it's really not too bad. It's a sensor, it's no different than what an automatic does in terms of, reading what the wheel speed is, reading what engine speed is. This is more like what
in supercars did in the 2000s when everybody was losing their shit about having a happy paddle gearbox.
Yeah. So basically, literally the way you would drive this thing is you would just, be driving along, you let off the gas, you put it into second, and then it would automatically do all of the different little things it needs to do to make things kind of match up and line up. So
I kind of just want to flat shift it and see what happens.
I'm really curious, because in theory, literally, since the clutch is controlled by it, your stick, in theory, doesn't actually... Well, and that's the weird thing, though, is if the stick is cable driven, so it would still be doing... So literally what it would do is, when you would slam it into third, it would release the clutch, and then it would wait until things were right, and then it would let on the clutch. So basically, you just randomly... if the shift logic wasn't done well enough, then you'd just, lose power for a second between things. Right. It'd feel like you just stepped on the clutch pedal while you were doing it and didn't let off the clutch pedal. So it'd be kind of funky, but it's an interesting idea, especially because clutches and standard gearboxes are still way more robust and more durable than a standard automatic transmission. And because of that, and the maintenance on them is so much simpler. So it's an interesting stance to take. But I know a lot of people are gonna think it's dumb and have zero interest in it because they bought the manual because they wanted the full manual. But in terms of packaging, it's definitely kind of interesting.
It is definitely interesting.
So let's see. Then do you want to talk about this next thing? So yeah, we talked about it a long, long time ago. It did make it into the podcast, the old podcast actually. And this is the resolution to that story. Do you want to?
Oh, I think you're probably better than I, because I am kind of forgot what happened in the first place.
So long story short is a few. I think it's almost been more than a year back now. Let's see. Let me see if the article mentions it. Yeah, back in 2018, basically Detroit's big three automakers noticed that a bunch of like vehicles were missing key fobs, and basically what ended up happening was it turned out that somebody was stealing them. Big surprise. Well, they actually managed to find the dude. You know what? I just realized we talked about there was a guy who stole a bunch of key fobs from a dealership. That was a different thing. But
okay. I was like, what are you talking about? I don't.
Yeah, so this is its own thing. But basically, it's still, in 2018, this still happened in 2018, when they noticed that a bunch of key fobs were missing. And they found the guy, and he was doing the stupid thing, which is that he was selling them on eBay, which, is an easy way to get caught and tracked down. So, not as cool as I thought, because I thought that it was actually related to the story that we talked about a long, long time ago. But it is still just kind of funny that, like, he stole over 2,000 key fobs and was just selling them on eBay, and that's how it got caught. Alright, so, now, I'm going to let you talk about this next one. You may not love it, but I've talked about a lot of them.
I know. Yep, Nissan's got a new logo, because, can't have an original idea since BMW and VW were using their badges. Nissan had to do the same thing too. Although I'm joking though, but because I'm pretty sure the reason they're doing this is because they want to put this logo on the new car, which I think comes out later this year, if I remember correctly.
I don't know when it's supposed to come out.
I do like it. I like how it is I like how BMW now BMW, and now Nissan have cleaner, simpler logos. I like it a lot more.
I just like how so many all these manufacturers are basically switching to logos that can be replaced with stickers.
That's the way of the future.
Yep,
sticker do what Porsche does on the
or even
the
not even stickers. They can just be painted on too. Like if you want it to like really last, literally just between like before you do the clear coat on the paint, you just go psst with a little stencil, and then boom, you've got the logo. Then you clear coat over it. Which means no more debadging for you guys who like that clean look.
I think people actually do that.
Dude, lots of people debadge. Like,
I mean, like, do car companies? That's what I meant.
What, do the spray-on badges?
Yeah.
No, nobody does spray-on badges that I know of. The most that they do is stickers.
I'm saying, do you think they'll do that? I wonder if that's going to be a thing now.
I mean, it's cheaper. Like, flat out. It means you no longer need to manufacture these plastic logos. You don't. It's one step you can take out of the assembly process and put into the automation process. There's just so many things that it would improve in terms of cost and efficiency to go with stickers or a spray-on logo versus the traditional big old honking thing that has an in. Because that's the other thing too is a lot of cars have an indent for their logos too, and so that's more complexity in the body panel casting too. So when you have a flat logo, it can go on flat surfaces and it looks fine. So I honestly think that that's a big reason why a lot of companies are like it's also the modern thing to do. Like more and more companies are going with flat logos, but especially in the manufacturing world, it saves money. It saves money and it saves time. So there's really no incentive not to do it unless you like your shaped logo, which shaped logos are cool. So it's like, pick your poison. So, speaking of poison, I'm pretty sure metal is poison if you inhale it in powder form, which is how Porsche's making the new pistons in the GT2 RS. So, the new GT, basically, in the next gen GT2 RS, or not even the next gen, it might even be some upcoming GT2 RSs, they're going to be 3D printing their pistons, which, for most of you guys know this already, but when you can 3D print stuff, it means that you can make these, like, weirdly intricate and, like, natural shapes inside of your design. So, like, when you look at the pictures of this piston, you can see that it only has the absolute minimum amount of material required. So, like, normally you just have this solid block, with some things cut out the outside of it, whereas this actually has contours and curves inside of the piston. And so what that means is you can lower the weight of the pistons, which means you can lower the rotational weight of everything. You can lower the reciprocating weight, which means you can get lighter counterweights to balance out the forces of uneven forces, and just everything about the engine gets lighter. And normally, like traditional, even like on a 5-axis mill, some of these designs are just not possible because you have to be able to like go in somewhere and cut things out. And so, and flat out, like in some cases you could do it with small enough milling tools, but small milling tools burn out in like 15 seconds, so then it takes 18 million years to do it, and it's just not feasible. Whereas 3D printing, you design it perfectly, you design it with a 3D model where you can X-ray all the different little parts, and you can even have hollow pieces inside of things, because that's the other thing you can't do with milling. You can't have hollow pieces, like flat out, you can't do it. And so Porsche's playing around with the idea of doing these 3D printed pistons, or they're going to do it, and it's going to add 30 horsepower, and that's just in lowering the weight, which is, it's such a big end game that a lot of people forget, is that engines can, you can dump as much fuel and as much boost into an engine as you want, but if you can lower the weight of the various different components, you can gain just as much horsepower if you do it the right way.
100%.
So I look forward to seeing, like, honestly, I really look forward to just when 3D printing metal becomes more economical, because that will be the future of making a lot of crazy things.
So, with that being said, since I realized we're doing 4 p.m. my time, not 4 p.m. your time, I do have to run.
Yeah. So that being said, and we're actually at a healthy amount of podcast time today, so we did not run crazy over. So we're not. We won't bother talking
about time zones.
Yeah. So we're not going to talk about this last topic. Last topic can just go. But as always, huge thank you to everybody who listens to these podcasts. I don't know how many of you there are. Haven't been keeping track because I'm a terrible manager and I'm a terrible marketing manager. But as always, please do not hesitate to subscribe to us on your platform of your choice. We're on just about everything. And likewise, the other thing too, like I said, classic running joke, but first person to email us today, what's today's spicy word gonna be, Hunter? It's Stellaris? No, Stellaris is an actual... Acne. Stellaris is an actual medication. Stellantis, there we go. Stellantis. Email email Juan at thecolumnshifters.com with just the word Stellantis, and I'll give you a $10 gift card towards any food place that you want. So as always, like I said, we'll talk to you guys in the next 2 weeks. We're going to be mixing things up. Pretty much it's always going to be 2 of us now. It'll just be me and Hunter, or me and Brian, because we have some weird schedule stuff going on. So next week, or not next week, in the next 2 weeks, it'll be Brian. So we'll talk to you guys next week, and like I said, thank you for listening. Peace out.
Bye.